What's up, and welcome to this week's live event here on Prepper Talk Radio. What in the September is going on?
This is an event. You called this an event?
This is the event of all events. It's a podcast for those listening later. Those who are, you missed out on a cool episode. You need to be on our lives weekly to really get in on all of everything that's going on. But no, it's funny because there's so much going on right now. Like, if you watch the news cycle and the social media cycle, there's a lot of people panicking about September, and we're going to jump into that. But before we do, I want to remind you guys to go check out a way that you can fight back against all the woke movement, and that's to vote with your dollar. Check out patriotswitch.com/prepper talk to see what we're talking about, because there you can see how you can use your dollar to fight against all the big companies that are really, it's just the same seven or eight, and they're all owned by BlackRock, and they're all in this massive debt. So they're pushing this agenda. And this is an American-made company with American products sourced and manufactured here in the United States. And it's a very conservative movement, so you can jump in on that. But for those of you who are in our weekly live today, I want to thank you for being here and participating. We look forward to your comments and questions. And as usual, I am Scott, and we've got Shane and Paris here on the live stream to talk to you guys about what is going on. And I don't know, I've got to lead off with The Simpsons. Have you guys seen all the Simpsons prediction models out there? Everyone's talking about how they're always right.
I have seen many.
Well, there's an episode with Lisa Simpson as president, and it all goes down because of September 23rd. The prior president dies, like everyone turns into like zombies. I don't know. There's just like all this weird stuff. That's just one of the things. But then if you like go back through all these different TV shows and movies, they're all referencing September 22nd, September 23rd. And now there's this group that's like, don't eat the meat. It's National Hamburger Day or week, whatever. And McDonald's has a huge discount. It's like 10-cent hamburgers.
On the 23rd?
This week, the 18th to the 22nd.
Oh, okay.
So like right now, and they're like, don't eat the hamburgers, because there's what was it? Oh, there's an episode on The Simpsons again, Krusty Burger, and he's like, okay, here's what we did: is we took the cows that eat the grass and we processed them, and then we fed that to the other cows, and that's why this is the best burger you'll ever have. It's a burger. Well, then everybody turned into zombies and like went crazy, right? And so people are like, whoa, what if that's what it is? And so like Wendy's, McDonald's, and everybody that sells all the hamburgers, and they do a deal every year. This time now they're like, there's a huge group of people that are like, don't go buy hamburgers because it's going to have something in it.
I haven't heard that, but
you haven't heard that one?
No, I haven't heard. I've heard much worse. I have heard much worse than that to not eat at McDonald's, not just because the way they think the stuff they put into it. And I'm not even going to go any further than that. But some of you will know what I'm talking about. So,
well, they're already doing in the UK. They've already allowed the consumption of human meat. They produce it in labs.
That is where I was going, actually, with that.
Leave it to Scott to bring it in.
I go places.
But no, even worse than that. But essentially.
It's just
let me just say,
you guys go
avoid anyone wearing red shoes. And those of you who know about that, I don't need to say anymore. And I'll talk to you guys offline about that if you want to hear more about it, if you don't already know.
Well, not only September 23rd this year, September, as a terms, we'll get into all the different things. I actually looked up a list of, and I don't know if this is extensive or exclusive, or if there's
a good list that you sent, Paris. This is a really good list.
If you look, there are 33 references to September 23rd. Yeah. So they're on this particular list, they hit 33, which is another number that the secret combinations and those that are out there in the world elite like to use. So it may be bigger, maybe smaller, I don't know, but this particular list was 33, and I thought, wow, that was
and a list of television shows, movies, and such that reference September
we'll talk
23rd.
About a couple of those. Yeah. But I also wanted to reference the fact that October 4th, FEMA and the Emergency Broadcasting System are putting out this broadcast to test the systems, and everybody's concerned, or there's a lot of concern right now. And I don't know whether it is true or not, but it's definitely worth thinking about and worth being prepared for. if they put out a broadcast and somehow it's got a 5G, wavelength in there, a frequency in there, and you got metals or, other things in your body that they've put in our body with this, the last couple of years, if you know what I mean, then
or in the meat this week,
or the meat this week,
yeah, that's true.
That you might have an issue. So I personally, Scott and I were talking earlier today about maybe we should do a heavy metal detox or something, and clean out our systems. But there's definitely some things coming up to watch for. And September 23rd usually falls around, I don't know if you've ever heard of Jonathan Cahn and the Shemitah and things like that, but usually the Shemitah years are kind of right in this era of between September, end of September, kind of stuff like that. So,
hey, just want to pause you there for a second, Paris. Scott, it doesn't look like our YouTube feed is working. You want to check that out real quick? At least it's not working for me. I don't know, but it looks like we've got some people commenting here on YouTube. But
okay, we got Justin over at Safe Prep who loves his mRNA steak. For those of you who don't want mRNA steak, we've got an option for you called Riverbend Ranch. Make sure you stay tuned because we can share a link later on that one. But if you go to patriotswitch.com/Prepper Talk, you can get a meat box with meat that is no vaccine, none of that crap. No mRNAs. Like all the food they own the food fields, they own the beef, and they own the processing. It's all like the best.
Yeah. Additionally, if you can find, sub Mike. Additionally, if you can find a local meat processor in your community, rural community that you can buy from directly, you can even take your animals there. That would be far preferable as well. So, but let's see. We're at September 23rd. Did you know that there is a phobia called, let me see if I can pronounce this, icocytriophobia? Icocytriophobia. Have you heard of that?
No.
You had us worried there, Mike.
Good.
Icocytriophobia. Do you know what that is?
I don't know.
That is the fear of the number 23.
Interesting.
Did you know that? That's an actual phobia. Icocytriophobia. And of course, that's Greek. It's where that comes from. But it seems like there is something to do about the 23rd. Not just September 23rd, but number 23 in general.
Well, there was that Jim Carrey movie that was all about 23 as well, which is one of the ones that's referenced in this group here, where they talks about he mentions in the movie 23, Jim Carrey mentions the date September 23rd as the day that hell arrives.
Ooh.
So he actually does mention the September as that, and then it's the movie's 23, of course. So it's talking about that number and how many different things are happening with that number in the strangeness that's out there about the number 23. So
yeah, I hadn't even heard of that movie before.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those horror / weirdo kind of, I didn't watch it myself because it was kind of, looked a little strange, but
the Sleepy Hollow, the I don't know if that's a TV or movie. September 23rd, a new dimension is opened. I mean, that's kind of what people are talking about the 23rd. And I think what I hear most about the 23rd is the rapture, right? Which we've talked about a little bit here. It is a significant day for a lot of reasons. You can kind of go back to Book of Daniel and the dates and all the numbers and count backwards, count forwards, and come up with the date September 23rd. I think I don't know what to say about that. A lot of these things sound really good, but it is, in my opinion, kind of reaching. But who knows? Maybe that's how these things work. And
if something does happen, I think Utah Mike points out, he says his father-in-law is going to be there on the 23rd, so nothing better happen. It's like, right? You don't want more mouths to feed if something actually does go sideways. You don't want more people to have to worry about. And that's why we're breaking this down, because it's fun. And
well, another thing that's interesting on this list, there's several of them here as I'm reading through the list. There's several of them that talk about an asteroid or a meteor striking the Earth on September 23rd. In fact, the day in Evan Almighty, which was with Steve Carroll, the day the flood comes is September 22nd. So this kind of this end of the world, this extinction level event kind of a
doomsday
thing. Yes. And so, with all these recently, they've been talking so much about aliens. I don't know if you guys saw the thing down in Mexico or wherever it was in South America.
Yeah, the little paper mache baby aliens.
Somebody, I don't know if it was actually done on a different site or somebody made it up, but they're like, turns out that these aliens were actually cake. And so they cut into it and like had this piece of cake. I'm sure somebody made it.
Yeah, I saw the best meme today. You remember in Aliens with Sigourney Weaver, where the alien's coming right up to her face and she's like this,
Yeah.
I saw one with that alien, that cake alien, and she's like this. I'm like, just a hilarious meme.
That's funny.
I'll have to share that on the channel there.
Well, I think one of the things that they're trying to do is, of course, if they can get us to think that we need to have a one world leader, like, if an alien comes to the traditional movie is, when an alien comes to the earth, they say, take me to your leader. And in our world, we would say, well, which one, what country, what group, what organization? Well, they want to create that idea of a one world group leader that can, if an alien invasion did happen, they would be able to say, well, this is the one guy to look to. The problem with that is that, well, of course, it's scripturally, there is a desire for the enemy of all righteousness and light to be able to create a one world organization and rule over people. And so we do need to be aware of that. But I think it's funny that they're trying to do it through an alien invasion style of a thing, which, why not scare us with asteroids? With all this Project Bluebeam stuff, they could probably project some kind of asteroid up there and then have it come down. Who knows what's going to happen on this particular set? I don't know if anything will happen this Saturday or not, but well, as of the recording, as of the podcast, it'll have been this last Saturday, but the live, it's this coming Saturday. So just, again, it's fun to be prepared. It's fun to talk about this kind of stuff and just be prepared for anything and what might happen and just be ready so that when anything happens, we're good to go.
Yeah, I think that's the key for, regardless of all these things, just be ready. And I'm honestly, I'm staying home that day. I'm not going out to the property. I'm just going to be around here. Not that I'm terribly concerned about anything, because if you look back to September 23rd, what notable happened on September 23rd, 2017? Well, that was a big thing that happened September 23rd, 2017. It was the alignment, right, of the moon, sun, moon, stars, Venus, the a woman clothed in the sun with the moon at her feet. That happened on September 23rd, 2017. And so many people thought, oh, this is the end of the world. This is a rapture at that point. I mean, it's 6 years later now, and what has happened? Nothing.
Well, what's interesting is that there's another sign that's happening in the heavens now, and that includes the woman, and the sun's back at her head and the moon's at her feet. And now the asteroid, the child, is passing through her.
That's true. It's kind of happening again, isn't it?
So there's so many signs in the heavens that are like, okay, what's really going on? And then the world's telling us, hey, 23rd, we're going to have a flood, or we're going to have alien invasions, or we're going to have hamburger apocalypse. Like, they're just loading everything up so that they have anything they can do that they want to do, they can kind of get away with, right? It's all predictive programming. Let's create a mindset that they'll believe something's going to happen, and then they'll be looking for it. And while they're looking over here, we're going to be over here moving another $40 billion into our pockets. And we're also going to be passing laws that they're not going to pay attention to so that they lose more rights. Right? That's typically what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. It could very well just be a distraction. But, it's, as time goes on, as we get closer and closer to the second coming of Christ, I think we're all in agreement that's coming soon. What soon means is the big question. Mike's planning a barbecue. I think that's a great idea. I think we just need to be more and more on our toes and just take it more and more seriously. I mean, that's my stance.
Well, again, it goes back to personal responsibility. Like, if you haven't already gotten it done and you're watching the world and it's not motivating you to get things done, I don't know what else is going to take.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I seriously I have family members in the extended family that they still think I'm nuts for getting prepared. And I'm like, I've never had to go without with my kids and my wife, and they have. And I tell them, I'm like, well, it's because I've planned for these things. Well, that's just crazy. And then they're like, well, we ran out of baby food and formula, and we ran out of diapers. So I'm like, how? You make 3 times as much money as me. How?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we only buy what we need. And I'm like, you always need more than you have. So you should always have more than you need. And never go to the very end of it before you resupply. That's why we go back to that home store model of things. First in, first out. Rotate your foods, rotate your medicines, rotate everything you have, your soaps, like everything. It's good to have at least a 90-day supply. If you can get to a year supply of everything, dude, you're killing it.
Yeah.
But at least a 90-day supply. And you rotate, pull a can of ravioli out of the basement, put it in the pantry upstairs. Every time I grab one out of the upstairs, I go back down to the basement, put another one back up there. And I put the ravioli on the list, go buy more ravioli. Like, that's how you should work it.
Mm-hmm. And so regardless of what happens in the world, if you're prepared, it's you don't have to worry about what happens in the world because you're ready for any potential thing. But I read a quote recently by Manly P. Hall. And if you know who Manly P. Hall is, he was one of the he was working for the enemy of righteousness. And he wrote, "Symbolism is the language of the mysteries. By symbols, men have ever sought to communicate to each other those thoughts which transcend the limitations of language." And so when you realize you don't necessarily, when you realize that the people that are fighting against righteousness and fighting against good things, this is what they believe. This is what their religion is. They're Hollywood, all the symbolic things that they do. They use stories and analogies. They do kinds of they do these subtle speech and all those types of things to kind of present their messages to the world. So you have to think that if Hollywood is consistently putting out a message about September 23rd, at some point they're going to try something. Mm-hmm. And so that's why it's important to be aware of it. Now, you might think it's a conspiracy or no, it's just a coincidence. I don't believe that. I believe that there's that Jesus Christ has a group of people that are fighting for righteousness, and then the devil has a group of people that are fighting on the other side of it, against it. And the people that are fighting against it, they have their little tricks and things that they like to do. And Hollywood is definitely one of them. And if they keep putting out messages on a consistent basis, that there's some reality to how that's how they're supposed to do it. They have to tell the world what they're going to do before they do it, so that when they do it, they can say, well, we told everybody that we were going to do it. They should have been aware. They should have been paying attention.
Right. And if we don't act on it, they consider it that they've got our permission or consent to proceed with whatever their plans are, because we didn't say anything about it. We didn't do anything about it because, like you say, they presented in Hollywood in a way that, oh, this is fiction. This is, we've talked about this before, like the show X-Files, right? Everything you see on X-Files, a lot of it is actually true, has come true. We've seen these are
right.
facts. But, to those who are not the conspiracy theorists, do the air quotes, they say, oh, this will never happen because it was on X-Files, right? Oh, this will never happen because it's in the movies. This is not true because, this is what couldn't be true because that's what they show in the movies, right? But it's actually, like you say, this can't be coincidence. 33 different movies talking about September 23rd in particular. Yeah, there's something to it. Definitely something to it. No doubt about it.
And I kind of like what you were saying earlier. I think it was Paris. You said that maybe it's a kickoff event, right? That made me start thinking about maybe it's not a kickoff event, but a kickoff timer that will then allow all their communications to sync going forward based off of a key, right? Maybe they have a key of what communication is going to mean and what things are going to mean going forward. And maybe that's what it all comes down to, is like, okay, we're now synchronizing our clocks on September 23rd.
Well, I think, it's interesting. I watched this other video about, of course, a lot of people tie this into the rapture, into some spiritual event, some type of doomsday or other type of event. And if you go to Daniel, the prophecies in Daniel in chapter 8 through 12, talks about a lot of different days. I know Paris, well, both you guys know about this. There are people who are taking those numbers and counting backwards to other events, notable events, which make a lot of sense. That to where they tie into a particular peace plan that Israel made with Trump back in 2020. The date the pandemic was declared, the date, certain dates, significant dates where you can count back and they tie the numbers tie together. Okay, there's got to be something to that too. I mean,
there is, yeah.
It might be a bit of a stretch, but I mean, there's I don't know if there are coincidences. I
don't believe in those anymore.
Yeah, it's hard to believe in coincidence anymore after everything we've seen. If your eyes are open.
Yeah, I think one of the great things that you also have to remember is that, our job is to survive, not just survive, but to thrive. And if we don't it's one thing, part of a prepper's mindset is to have food and water and gear. However, we also need to have knowledge about properly running a society, which in my opinion, one of the greatest documents that has ever existed about creating a society is the Constitution, and knowing and understanding that, and also knowing and understanding the scriptures so that we can have that spiritual foundation of preparedness and emotional and spiritual preparedness. If you don't recognize that there's two forces here coming together, if you don't recognize that we need to understand that at a very minimum, we need to understand there's tyrants and there's people that want to maintain the liberty of the people. And a tyrant wants to take away the liberty, and a patriot and a prepper, in my opinion, would want to establish the liberty and freedom of the people. And that gives us the freedom to be prepared, to be ready, to have our own homesteads, to grow our own food, to live our own way. And so when you've got a group of people that are clearly trying to take over and control us, they're taking away our liberty. So at the minimum, as a prepper, you ought to be focused in on what can we do to fight against the tyrants and to reestablish or at least maintain our liberties. And then if you're a Christian, or if you're someone who believes in biblical prophecies, there's an even higher level of that into the spiritual world and the spiritual warfare that's going on. And so there's definitely some things to consider here as not just a preparedness person for food, water, shelter, gear, but also, hey, we need to be able to fight against and can maintain our liberties and our freedoms and the tyranny that's coming as well. So that's part of the reason why I think it's important to be watchful about these things that they announce and these consistent messages that you're hearing from the globalists and their distribution channels.
Yeah. What's interesting is, like, you basically just paraphrased Ephesians 6:12, which says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." That's why we prep.
Yeah.
That's why we hold to the Constitution. That's why we vote. That's why we engage in our community to try to help rebuild it. That's why we have to have a knowledge of how to work with other people.
That's why we have to talk about these things, right?
Yeah.
Like Paris is saying, they may have a plan, but if we're out there talking about it, it may expose it to enough people to where they say, "Oh, we need to bump our plans back." It may slow down, or they might change their plans entirely. And I think I've seen this happen with other more notable people talking about potential things that could be coming up, and the word spreads out there, and the event doesn't happen. Maybe that's because there were too many people talking about it, and it would have been too obvious at the point. So if we can do make a little bit of difference, I'm good with that. I feel good about that.
So here's the question: what was it before it was Agenda 2030?
Agenda 21.
And why didn't Agenda 21 happen?
It could very well be because the Patriots defeated their purpose a little bit.
Yeah. And then why have they tried so hard to stifle free speech for the last 5 years? Because it stopped their first chance at the Agenda 21. Now that they're on Agenda 2030, they're trying harder to keep us from communicating with each other. So they're trying harder to stop our ability to have community.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's why there's going to be another shutdown coming soon. right? And it's already started in certain areas, and it's to stop us from communicating, to stop us from bonding. We need to bond with other people. Like, that's the whole point of this experience here on Earth, is like, we need to bond, we need to create community, we need to create family. And my personal philosophy is I've got to help create as many prepared families as I can, because prepared families create prepared communities, and prepared communities can get through whatever comes.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite quote is "Come what may, and love it," which is to have gratitude, but to try to be as prepared as possible for whatever's coming, and just love the journey, love the experience. You don't have to love every little thing that happens. Oh, I stubbed my toe. I love that, right? No, just love that you're still alive, you're still breathing, you're still able to take another step, you're still able to keep moving forward. You know, there's so many people who just have their blinders on, and they're just angry all the time, or they're just upset and sorrowful, and there's so much depression. It's like, we need to get back to communicating with people, not the keyboard warrior communication, but the face-to-face, the small groups. While you can, get your barbecue going. This winter's coming, right? Get your barbecue going, invite your neighbors over, invite your friends and family over, and start communicating and see what they're doing. And you don't have to spill the beans on everything you're doing, but help them get better prepared.
And hope that meteor comes down during your barbecue, right? But it'd be a really great talking point there. But hey, I wanted to address Mike's question real quick about what The Simpsons says about September 23rd. From what I've seen, it's not as obvious or blatant as some of these other movies where they say September 23rd. It's in their numbers in a lot of things they displayed, like the numbers 239 or 923 or 23 in general. It's fairly widespread throughout their shows, particular seasons. So that's kind of where, and maybe that's reaching a little bit too. But from what we've seen has happened through this, in The Simpsons, it has been correlated with The Simpsons.
Yeah,
I think it correlates ideally.
Well, and Sandy says you'd be surprised how many people don't prep due to the fact that they've been told, "Oh, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Something's going to happen."
Yep.
And I remind people, it's like, that's not why you prep. You prep so that no matter what's going on in life, you're always in a better situation.
Mm-hmm.
Called crying wolf, right? I mean, we've all heard the story of the little boy who cried wolf.
Dude, it's anti-fragility. And for those who are new to that term, we say this every once in a while, but it's being able to be resilient against anything that's coming and not just cower and break. If you have a 90-day pantry and you lose your job, you're still going to eat while you're looking for a new job.
Exactly.
If you have a 90-day savings, really now it's 6 months is your minimum time between jobs. If you lose a job, that's how long it's taking to find a new job. So you want to have everything stacked up for 6 months in your favor, so that if something happens, it's not as big a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're in a car accident and lose a leg, that's a big deal. But if you've got the type of insurance that'll pay out if you lose a leg, it's not as big a deal. And if you have food storage and you've got savings and you can get through those hard times, it's not as big a deal. That's the point of prepping. It's not about the apocalypse. It's about every day.
Yeah, for real. Another thing too to think about is why are they canceling so many influencers that are talking about some of these things? Why are so many people coming out and they're suppressing their voices? They're talking, I'm not going to get into all the social media influencers that are under fire right now, but there's just so many people that when they say anything about what's might be going on or talking about some of these quote unquote conspiracies, they get silenced and shut down. I mean, that's highly suspicious, if you ask me. And so when you think about whether it's September 23rd or if it's October 4th or whatever these dates that they kind of hint or, put out there to kind of tease us or, whatever they're doing, the point is that you got to be aware of what's going on. And sometimes it's not necessarily what's being said, but what's not being allowed to be said. That is a big key in what we're looking at and what we're trying to do. So I know that there's a lot of people being silenced who are trying to talk about certain things. And so that's something to think about as well and to consider. They wouldn't be doing that if there wasn't something to it or if they weren't concerned about that voice getting out there. And so many different, in fact, I think I was trying to look it up while I was sitting here, but I think the UN just established a group to go after some of these influencers and stop them from presenting and promoting this free thinking ideal. So why would the UN do that if there wasn't something that they were scared of happening in regards to that? So that's another key thing, is to watch what these guys are doing and why are they putting these groups together to do certain things. And you're like, okay, there's got to be something to it. And, you know, you got to be careful with what you're going to talk about and what you're going to say. However, I still believe that it's important to speak truth and to get the word out there, and just always watch your six, always be ready for what's going on, even if it's social, even if it's electronically watching your six. You know, you don't want to get canceled.
I got to play a sound for you guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hopefully you can hear this.
That's suspicious.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
What?
Okay.
That's weird.
That's suspicious. That's weird. And then here's another one that I think is even better.
That's suspicious.
Oh, that's the wrong one.
You don't find that suspicious. You don't find that suspicious. You don't find that.
Is that what
suspicious.
echoes through your head every day, Scott?
Like all the time. Like it's a trending sound on every social media. And it's like every time something goes wrong. You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious? Another one is like a guy he's a comedian, he's talking about conspiracy theories. He's like, you believe that your gut, but you don't think your government's batting 1,000? Like you don't believe anything? He's like, come on, like nothing, they can't do anything wrong. Like, and he just goes into it and it's like, yeah, like if you think your government or anybody is batting 1,000 at whatever they're doing or life in general, like people make mistakes, but then there's also the rogue element inside of absolute power breeds absolute corruption. Like that's the problem we're living in. That's the world we're living in. And so it's like, we've got to be ready. And it's crazy because this is National Preparedness Month.
What's about it? Yeah.
Nobody's talking about it. Nobody
I haven't heard anything.
talking about this is National Preparedness Month. You should be going through your checklists this month and double checking your stuff and make sure it's good, rotating things, checking your plans. Oh yeah, is this plan still going to work for us? If our house catches on fire, where are we going to stay? Right? If there's a tornado, what are we going to do? Like doing your drills, practicing your things. Like if you're not already doing it every couple of months, like we are you doing it at least in National Preparedness Month in September?
So Scott, you're talking about, isn't that suspicious? We hear that a lot. We hear the word conspiracy. We hear that an awful lot. They're really normalizing this, right? So that it's not so strange anymore. You know? And another thing I'm hearing a lot, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but World War III is almost here. You know, I'm hearing that a lot, even starting in the mainstream. You know, this is about World War III, this and World War III, that. That there's a surge in military activity here, and there's everything going. Especially if you're not obviously watching the mainstream, they're just not going to talk about it. But there's a lot of that happening, and the word. Another thing I hear a lot in the movies that has really come up, other than the September 23rd, is there's a storm coming. Right? There's a storm coming. That's something that's used an awful lot in movies, whether it's an actual storm, and that's. Well, like you're saying, Scott, this is what we prepare for. We prepare for the storm. So we're getting ready for winter. Right now is the time to get ready for winter, especially, you know, if you have a farm, you have a rural property, there's a lot you got to get done before winter comes so you can be ready for the snow. And I think obviously this is the same for a call it a theoretical storm of trouble that's being stirred up, like you're saying, Parrish. What are these big three-letter organizations doing? You know, organizing against us and shutting down, you know, I wouldn't say people like us, but people much more influential, influencers more so than us. Something's going on out there. It is going on, and it could very well culminate on the 23rd. Just saying.
Yeah. If it does or doesn't, we need to be prepared.
Yeah.
Either way. And that's kind of what the message is. You know, sometimes it's like, well, you know, if you're not aware of what's going on in the world, then you have a higher likelihood of being surprised by it or caught off guard by it. And that's all that, that's my main focus in sharing the message about what September 23rd, October 4th is, that, hey, nothing may happen, but be aware of it just in case something does. Plan for it, plan for the best, prepare. What is it? Prepare for the worst, plan for the best, prepare for the worst. and you'll be okay either way. If nothing happens, then you're good to go. If something does happen, hey, you'll be ready for it. And that's the idea at the end of the day, is just to be ready at all times, in all places, for all things, or as many things as we can.
I'm just going to keep my parachute on my back just in case, if there's that time that I don't have it and I need it, then I won't need it again. Right. So
that's the thing.
Keep that parachute.
Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Oh, maybe that's what I did wrong. Yeah.
And
easy. Same thing.
That's the key. You need, if you're listening to this, you need to have hope. Always be hoping. That keeps you in a positive space. Always have hope. Have faith in Jesus Christ. Have faith in God. And that will get you through more than you realize.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Have you guys seen the video on YouTube called I Pet Goat 2? Are you aware of that? I Pet Goat 2.
I think I have.
Now it's
going to be creepy or hilarious. I don't know.
Oh no, it's creepy. Yeah, it's
okay.
If you're not familiar with it, I recommend you go watch it if you want to get creeped out. Maybe Utah Mike, you don't want to watch this, but from what I understand, the original publisher of that pulled it recently. I don't know how recently, but it's no longer available on their page. But there are others who have, I don't know, copied it, shared it, so there you can still watch it on YouTube. But I recommend you go watch that. And there are a bunch of people who will interpret that, because there's obviously meaning in this thing. It is psycho, and it is absolutely psychotic.
It's a Canadian animated short film written and directed and produced by Louis Lefebvre, and it's all about an allegory of the Book of Revelation.
Well, I think there's a lot more. That's what they say. But go watch it and interpret it for yourself, and maybe watch some other interpretations of it. I won't spend too much time, but it's definitely announcing something. And of course, it's doing it very low key, and so that we don't understand and we don't do anything about it, right? So enough about that. I don't want to be creepy, but
another announcement. Let's look what Sandy posted. The vice president announced that she's ready to step into Biden's position.
And what have we been hearing about Biden? Oh, we're going to start impeachment or this or that. He's being questioned now. Whereas the past couple of years when he's just been clearly not fit, and they don't do anything about it. But why now?
Which is the opposite of what they did with Trump. And he's fully functional, everything's fine. We better get him out. He's unfit to be the president. He's crazy. What? And yet, all those same people, Biden is clearly a puppet. He cannot even walk on his own. There's strings attached. There's bodyguards carrying him. Like, he can't walk upstairs. He's falling down every airplane. Every time he gets on Air Force One, he's falling down.
And those wrinkles.
This is a sad state of affairs that we live in. And he if you believe he is fully running the show, you're crazy.
And another thing I was thinking about is that they've started to talk about how there's going to be another uptick in certain diseases this winter. And there's going to be things that are going to be viruses and horrible, we got to watch out for it. You're going to need to have this new vaccine that's coming out. Biden said that he's worked with a company to create this new vaccine to be able to save the world. And I'm thinking to myself, what are some of the ways that they are going to use to create some kind of maybe it's going to be the 5G network. Maybe it's this September 23rd. Maybe it's October 4th. And whatever they can do to lead into causing some kind of a panic is going to give them the ability to say, okay, see, look, we told you it was going to be bad, and look how it all happened. Well, problem, reaction, solution. And the problem is the government the government creates all these problems and then provides the solution.
Yep.
And everybody's like, oh yeah, great. I'm grateful actually to see over the last several years how many people have actually come up and woken up to this awful situation that we're under. I think there's some hope this time around that we're going to be able to fight. And I think that's what has got these guys scared to death, is that there's so many people now across the country. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and there's this guy who goes around, he travels the world speaking about liberty and taking back our rights and standing up. And he says, wherever I go, the hope is there is hope, because wherever I go, there's tens of thousands of people that are aware, that are awake, that know what's going on, and that are willing to now fight, and because they know what they're fighting. it's different when you don't know what you're supposed to fight against. Like where do we focus our efforts? But when you know what to fight against, it's easier to focus your efforts and go in there and kind of coordinate and go for it. And Crocs and Glocks has a great point here. October surprise. How many years have we heard about or been teased that there's going to be some October surprise? Well, this might be it. It may not be, but it might be. And so it's definitely something important to be aware of. And so, this there's too many. That's the thing is when I look at an opportunity or when I look at something that's going to happen, I think to myself, what are all the different things that are lining up? Are all the puzzle pieces, lining up to create a picture? And then you take those pieces and you kind of put them together and you see what the picture might be. And you're like, okay, I'm going to prepare for that. If it does happen. If it doesn't happen and I'm wrong, which I hope I hope I'm wrong for a lot of the things I think, then maybe what will happen instead is something different. Here's the cool thing. There was a lot of people that were freaking out that the military was going to come around knocking on our door, forcing us to take a medical, procedure. And there was all this fear mongering going on about all that. And it never happened. One of the things that I honestly, genuinely believe is that the wicked in this world, those tyrants of this world, they have plans. They absolutely do. They have plans. They want to do things certain days, certain things under certain conditions. They have all their plans. And then they move forward in those plans, and God is in control. And he says, nope, not today, Satan. Or he says, nope, not this week, Satan. And he does it because of the faithful people that are praying and the people that are striving to be faithful anyways, and praying and diligently saying, help guide and direct us and keep us safe. And he's also not going to do it all for us. God needs us to wake up and start acting of our own free will and choice in our own agency to be able to fight against this stuff. But again, he's going to stop. If it's not supposed to happen yet, it won't, because God's in control ultimately, which is what I love and I'm grateful for.
Yeah, it makes me think about something I hadn't thought about for a while. I remember what happened last June 6th of 2022. The Georgia Guidestones were destroyed. Remember that? They were,
which the Georgia Guidestones had like tons of keys of what's going to happen.
And under kind of suspicious circumstances, it didn't make a lot of sense how they were destroyed. But then, they didn't get fixed. They just got bulldozed. You would think someone who had a monument up, if it got vandalized, they would fix it, right? They were bulldozed and it's no longer there, from what I understand. I'm not an expert. And
yeah, they did bulldoze.
Of course, I didn't look back.
It looked like a rocket came from the side.
Yeah,
like it's totally suspect.
Yeah. Anyway, just thought I'd bring that up.
So what's going to get knocked down this year? So Stonehenge could go down.
That's fake anyway.
Let's see what else. There's the Washington monolith down in DC could go down. Like there's so many things that could just. But rather than investing your time trying to figure out what could happen and worrying about that, just focus on faith and hope.
And learning herbal medicine, as Sandy has pointed out to us here. I'll just click on that here. I mean, this is obviously extremely important. Did we lose Scott? Oh, yeah, we lost Scott somehow. Oh, he's taking a little break here. All right, so
I think it's important to be prepared, be aware, recognize that God's going to be in control ultimately, and so we don't have to. The sky. If you're constantly in a state of panic and a state of fear, you're not in the spirit of faith, and you're not doing it right. And there are things. Fear is kind of a great opportunity for us to stop and think and say, wait a minute, I have some fear coming. What do I need to do differently? That's kind of like the notification. It's like the stop signs coming up. The yellow light is kind of the fear. Okay, what do I need to do? Do I need to stop? Do I need to slow down? Do I need to make a decision here? So if you're feeling scared, that's good, because it means you're alive and you're aware of what's going on. But at the same time, you got to think, okay, as a prepper, I have solutions. I can come up with solutions. I have the ability to have solutions. And then you get in with a community of people that are looking for and toward a solution. And you're going to find that you're going to end up on the right side of history, because you're trying to find the solution to the problems that are being presented. And fear is real. We should overcome it. And courage.
Yeah, and additional with fear is what keeps you safe. It keeps me safe. For example, I've done a lot of underground caving, and if I didn't have some fear in me, I would not try extra hard to be safe. Right? If I was careless with my ropes, with my gear, and didn't double check myself and my brothers, my friends, when we're going underground, I didn't have a little bit of fear in me about what the consequences are of
Right.
not doing what I need to be doing or should be doing, being safe underground, or could be rock climbing or caving, whatever that might be has a level of danger to it, then that is very unwise. So that's what fear should power you to do, have that kind of fear. And yet I have that fear of going over the edge, yet I still go over that edge because I know I'm prepared. I know what I'm doing, and I know everyone else is safe. And I know I can get myself out of that situation, that potentially dangerous situation. Of course, and if it's controlled, it's not dangerous, and there shouldn't be fear. So, and there you go, like fear of wife. Totally on the same page with you there, Mike. I totally agree.
Well, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward in the face of fear.
Absolutely.
And so we need to be courageous, and we can be courageous, especially as believers, especially as Christians, those who want to really focus on that. I mean, even if you're not necessarily, you have a belief in Jesus Christ, you can still have some courage and faith. And there's the point is that whether or not the wicked do anything on September 23rd or October 4th, be aware of what they could be doing and just have some courage about what you can do as a solution. Should you do a metal detox? Should you do all kinds of detox? Yeah, probably. It's probably good for your health anyways. There's like, what is Scott and I were talking about a parasite detox.
Cleanse.
Yeah, like cleanse.
There's so many things that I'm dealing with in my personal body as well as my family. Like,
they could benefit from that.
I was listening to a doctor go over like the importance of parasite cleanses, an MD, not anyone else. It was an MD, because I wanted to kind of get a different take on things. And he was talking about how important it is to go through and do heavy metal detoxes and specifically doing parasite cleanses. He's like, we've completely moved away from how we used to do things. He's like, we used to do parasite cleanses twice a year as a society up until like the 40s and 50s. And then it just kind of disappeared. Like the doctor's like, hey, do this cleanse. Hey, do this. And now it's like
pharmaceuticals came out to fix the problem, right?
Right now they're like, oh, just take these 43 different prescriptions, and that's how you're going to live the rest of your life. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Well, we'll add another one every year just for good measure.
Yeah, seriously.
What? And all that does is feed the parasites so that you're in a worse situation long term than you would have been. But like, there's so many things you can fix with a cleanse.
And the reality is that with
all these things,
and then I know we're at the end of our hour here, but the reality is that with all the things that are spraying in the sky and they're spraying in the air, we need to have a detox.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't take the jab, you're going to have in our foods supply, in our not just in our meats, but also in the vegetables and the garden stuff. Even if you grow in your own backyard, there's still some stuff in that you got to be watchful for. And if you eat any kind of food, especially meats, you're going to have a potential for some kind of parasite to get in there and to have the access to your body. And so it's important to cleanse. It's important to kind of clean yourself out. I'm just learning about it. In fact, I was just thinking to myself, man, why haven't I done one of these in a while? And I did a cleanse probably 7 or 8 years ago. And it was a serious one. And I felt so good after it. I was like, why haven't I done this again? Anyways, it's just good stuff, regardless of what happens or whatever date or this weekend or in 2 weeks or whatever. The point is that we still need to be healthy. We still need to be strong, and we still need to do these things to stay healthy and be wise.
And I got a quick parting statement, if you don't mind. I talked a little bit about how there are a lot of people that are aware that there is a storm coming. What that storm is, I think we have a pretty good idea. And what is the warrior's response to a storm? I heard this many years ago, and it stuck with me. What is the warrior's response to that there's a storm coming? The warrior says, I am the storm. I am the storm. And so with like I say, with courage, courage is not lack of fear. It's performing, it's moving forward in the face of fear. So,
yeah. What's interesting is to go right along with that. If you understand the difference between the American bison and cattle when a storm comes, the cattle run away and they'll allow the storm to chase them until they're exhausted, tired, and dead.
I've seen it myself. Yeah.
But the American bison runs to the storm.
They face into the storm. Yeah.
They know if they face the storm and run into it, they'll get through it faster. They know it's inevitable, so they deal with it and move on with their life. And they still have tons of energy left over because they just got through it instead of stayed with it forever. So whatever you're fighting in life, run into it, get it done, move forward.
Yep.
Amen.
Be the warrior, as Shane said, and be the bison. Like, man, just embrace the suck and move through it. Face it and fight it and rise above it.
Amen. I heard a quote just recently, and I'm gonna cater it to this particular conversation. It was something along the lines of, when you pray to God, don't tell him all about your fears. You tell and how big your fears are and how much and how grandiose your fears are. You turn around and you tell your fears how big your God is and how much he can protect you and keep you safe. And I was like, dude, that's what I need to be. I needed to hear that day, to tell my fears, to tell my problems. Look, I got a bigger God than you, and he's going to help keep me and guide me and direct me through this. And so, you guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being on the show. We're at the top of the hour here. We're gonna close it out. Thank you so much for listening. Whether or not anything happens on the 23rd, it's still something interesting to be thinking about. Whether or not anything happens on the 4th, be aware, be ready, and consistently stay ready-minded. You've been listening to Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded, with your hosts Scott, Shane, and Paris. Thank you so much for being on with us, and we'll see you next time.
See you next week, guys.